Welcome back to The Explainer. Today, we're going to explore something absolutely mind-blowing. We're looking at a biological marvel that actually doubles as a profound cosmic blueprint. I'm talking about the human eye. But we're not just looking at it as an organ of sight. No, we're going to look at it as a living, breathing topological map, one that perfectly mirrors one of the most mysterious and ancient texts in existence, the verse of light. Okay, let's dive into this because here's where the mystery really kicks off. We usually think of the brain or the heart as the ultimate energy hogs of the body, right? But actually, right now, gram for gram, your eye, specifically your retina, is consuming more oxygen than literally any other tissue in your entire body. The metabolic demand happening right behind your pupil is absolutely staggering. And that leads us to the ultimate biological paradox. Think about it. If you have a tissue burning through oxygen at a rate that would flat out ignite most other biological materials, how does it even survive? I mean, how can something burn through so much fuel without just bursting into flames? Well, the answer is that the eye is executing an absolute structural masterpiece. Part 1. The pupil's event horizon. So, to really understand this paradox, we kind of have to completely rethink what the eye actually is. It's not just some container holding light. It's a topological gate. It's a highly specific sequence of boundaries that light has to pass through, transform inside of, and eventually return from. Think of your pupil as a literal black hole, right in the middle of your face. It's an actual event horizon. Photons from the outside world enter it, but they absolutely cannot escape backward. The pupil doesn't emit light, it doesn't reflect it either. It is pure 100% absorption. And in the framework of our source material, this is crucial. It guarantees that no false light, no illusion, what the text calls teget, can ever originate here. Whatever falls into this ground just disappears from the outside world completely. So a photon's journey is strictly a one-way ticket. First, it strikes the cornea. That's the transparent seed that receives the light but doesn't process it. Then it travels through the aqueous humor as a physical, moving particle. Next, it reaches the iris gate, which is actively adjusting its aperture like a literal event horizon, until finally it just falls right into the black hole of the pupil. But what actually happens to it after it falls in? Part 2, particle versus wave. This brings us to a really critical transition point inside the eye. This is where two completely contrasting cosmic frameworks actually start operating at the exact same time. Our source material breaks these down as the D10 and I9 frameworks. Now, D10 is the physical, measurable world. We're talking particles, mass, fire. It's the biological body sustaining itself through actual cellular combustion. But then you have I9. I9 is the wave. It's the signal, the pattern, the imaginal field. Basically, D10 measures, but I9 remembers. And right here, deep inside the eye, D10 and I9 are about to crash right into each other. So right after passing the pupil, the light hits the lens. And the lens bends that light, a process the source refers to as the T3 refraction buffer. Now, this bending creates what's called the methal, which means an image or a likeness. And this right here is the magic moment where that D10 physical particle transitions into an I9 wave. Behind the lens is the vitreous humor. It's this large, gel-filled cavity where that image just floats, entirely as a wave of information. It's no longer acting like a physical destructive particle at all. Part 3, Anatomy of the lamp. Now we are going to look at how all this biological hardware maps perfectly onto a really profound ancient text. The verse says, "The likeness of his light is as a niche wherein is a lamp. The lamp is in a glass, lit from a blessed olive tree whose oil would almost glow forth, though no fire touched it, light upon light." Now, if you read that literally, it's just describing physical objects, right? But if you crack open a human eye, you are not going to find a physical lamp. There's no glass in there, no olive tree, no oil. And yet, the eye sees. Now, what's really interesting about this is how flawlessly the biological topology maps directly onto this text. The niche, that receiving surface, is the retina. The glass, which is the medium holding the wave, is the vitreous humor. The olive tree branching backward, that's the optic nerve. And that oil that glows without fire, that is the literal electrochemical signal in your head. The eye doesn't have a lamp inside it because the eye itself is the topology through which the light transforms. Part 4, the fireproof split. And this brings us right back to that wild paradox from the beginning. How exactly does the retina consume such extreme amounts of oxygen without just burning up? The key here is something called the fireproof split. See, the retina's massive oxygen consumption is purely for D10 metabolic maintenance. We're talking cellular respiration, ATP production, keeping the ion pumps going. It's literally just the biological tissue keeping itself alive. But the actual act of seeing, the phototransduction, that is an entirely I9 wave function. It's this incredible electrochemical cascade of cGMP and sodium channels. It is wave, it is not fire. You could physically burn the tissue itself with heat, sure, but you absolutely cannot burn the seeing. The sources draw this incredibly profound philosophical parallel here. Think about the story of Adam versus Yahya, or John. Adam took the fruit, right? And he made it fuel. He consumed it, and because of that, his state became combustible. But Yahya, on the other hand, was commanded to grip the book with strength, meaning he had to hold the pattern without consuming it. And guys, the eye grips light exactly the way Yahya gripped the book. It receives the photons, but it doesn't burn them as fuel. Instead, it perfectly translates them into this fireproof wave.
Part 5, the trustworthy return. So we've finally reached the last stage of vision. The signal has to leave the niche of the retina and actually make its return journey.
And this brilliantly illustrates the sheer elegance of the whole system. The optic nerve, which branches right out of the back of the eye, carries absolutely zero physical light. None. It travels backward, completely away from the external light source, deep into the total darkness of your skull. It's carrying nothing but that electrochemical pattern. It's literally the oil that glows without fire. And when that wave signal finally reaches your visual cortex, we experience light upon light. The first light was the external photon falling into the pupil. The second light is the internal recognition, the pattern successfully received and decoded inside your mind. Neither of them is fire, both of them are wave. I'm going to leave you with this to think about. The visual cortex of your brain is a pitch black room. No physical light has ever reached it. Yet, this fireproof darkness is exactly where the absolute trustworthiness of your vision is assembled. It turns out, true seeing doesn't actually require a lamp. It just requires a flawless return.